that. I don't think. We are live.
Yeah, we are live. So you guys are probably used to hearing male voices on this podcast, but we're gonna mix it up a little bit today. My name is Erin Clarke. I am a journalist, but more importantly, I am a good friend of these two guys, Dr. Bo and Corona. Known both of them for several years. I mean, Corona, I've known you for about 10 years, so it's maybe about 15. So it's hard to believe that I've known Bo for even longer, since I was a little kid.
I'm
High
sorry.
school. But I'm here today, guys, to interview you, to let folks that listen to the Demand Better podcast find out a little bit about you. You guys are the ones always talking. You guys are the ones always asking questions. So now we're turning the spotlight around to you guys. So without further ado, let's get this started. I'm sure that folks who are watching, listening to the Demand Better podcast want to know a little bit about your background. And if they do already, you're getting new viewers, a new audience every so often. And so it's always a good thing to introduce yourself. So let's start with Dr. Bo.
Hey.
Bo, I mean, doctor of what? Tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do.
I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I got my doctorate actually right across from where you and I met at Brooklyn Tech. So I actually got my doctorate right across the street, Long Island University on DeKalb Avenue there in Brooklyn. Shout out to the 718 as Corona's got his 315 shirt on.
The 315 and the 718 are near and dear to me.
Yes.
Brooklyn girl at heart, but went to Syracuse University for grad school. So I got to show love to both.
We got to figure out where your allegiances truly are, Erin.
Oh, by all means, my allegiance is truly to New York City. I'm a 718 girl. I have a 917 area code for my cell phone. You know, those are hard to come by now. So
yeah, it was very hard for me to give it up. I had to give that up at some point.
You should never do that, Bo. I'm so disappointed.
I know, but I have like a business in other cities and states that probably wouldn't do so well with. Anyway,
you're right.
Moving on. Dr. Bo, physical therapist. Physical therapy, got my doctorate there. That was 2008. I've been running around the world. I opened a gym in Dubai, met my wife there. I worked for a celebrity and traveled around the world with him and his G5 and was in his entourage, getting him ready for surgeries and recovered and things like that. So I've been around. My passion is in the sports and orthopedic space, but also, and I don't actually know if you saw this, Erin. You remember Mr. Williams, Mark Williams?
Yeah, of course I do.
I don't know if you've seen what he does recently.
Just so everyone who's listening to this knows, because Bo's just throwing out names. Mr. Williams or Mark Williams was a guidance counselor when we went to Brooklyn Tech. And at least last I had heard, he was an assistant principal or a principal.
I think he's mostly moved out of he's a little bit in the educational realm, but the project that he has where I connected with him because he followed me on social media, and I'm always posting workouts and things like that, and he wanted some workouts, so we connected. I started sending him workouts. At some point, I had him on my podcast because one thing that he does is he coaches people on public speaking. So he has a couple books out. I think I should have grabbed one. I have it on my bookshelf over there, but he coaches people on public speaking, and specifically, he has another podcast called "It's About to Go Down" with Kathy Armias, and I was on their podcast as well. And I'm bringing all this up because when he was on my podcast, he challenged me. And what they do is they coach people on their big ideas. And if they were going to do a TED Talk, how can you make that message a little more clear, concise, and more potent? So that was a very nice impetus for me kind of moving toward this direction of saying, I want to change the healthcare space. I want to change fitness. I see a lot of problems with it. I've moved out of the traditional realm early in my career. So around 2010 is when I discovered CrossFit, and I was like, there's this fitness thing, and Corona, I can see the eyes rolling there. He loves that word. But yeah, so from there, the journey is vast and all over the place. And I tried to open a CrossFit gym in New York City, and that has long stories and everything like that. But anyway, all coming back to today, I'm here in Colorado. I moved here in February. I have an online business where I try to work with as many humans as I can worldwide, in person and online, to assess their fitness, to then come up with a long-term health solution. So my whole thing is the Bo 30 concept of I can help you move and feel better in 30 minutes. I can then put a plan in place for the next 30 days to get us into the right direction so that we can have a long-term investment for the next 30 years.
Okay. I'm going to jump to Mr. Corona here. And just before I have you start, you have to throw in some SU grads or somebody who's famous from SU, just because, Bo was throwing in Mr. Williams from Brooklyn Tech. So you got to throw in.
We could talk about my best friend, Robert Drummond. We could talk about my buddy, Derek Coleman.
I thought I was your best friend.
I say that and I kid, but we really want to know about you, Corona. What do you do?
I'm an alignment specialist. I'm a personal trainer who focuses on alignment. I got into the space, the training space in college. Actually, let's back up. I'm a Cuban American. My father was the advisor to the Minister of Labor and Justice to the country of Cuba. We had to leave. We ended up from there. We went to Madrid. My mother was pregnant with me, and I actually am born on the SU campus at Krauss Irving Memorial. I'm a huge Syracuse person, not because I went to college there, but because Syracuse took us in when we came from Cuba. So I've a lot of gratitude, a lot of love for the city. In terms of getting into the space, I went to Potsdam State. I graduated with an ILR and economics major, moved to New York City, and then just got into the training space. I've worked with professional fighters, professional football players, professional basketball players, prenatal, CEOs, seniors who I absolutely love. But I'm also kind of pulling away from the traditional personal training space because they're not really fitting the needs of stuff. I got in at 95, and I've worked with a wide array of celebrities, everything. It's been a real fun ride. There's nothing that makes me happier than being able to help somebody move better, feel better. And I promote that. We look at you as an individual, and we do what's best for you. I'm just feeling blessed that I'm obviously with Bo here online and with you guys, but I feel blessed to be doing this with Bo. It's something that we actually really need in this field, in terms of us actually coming out and getting what we want, because I don't think we're actually getting what we want out of life in terms of these fields. So this is supposed to be a user guide and a destination, and I just feel blessed to be a part of the process and the demand better.
One thing that both of you guys touched on is that you want people to be able to move better, to feel better. And you both got out of the traditional space, whether it was physical therapy or personal training. For you, Corona, why did you guys feel a need to get out of the traditional space?
For lack of better words, there's a lot of garbage out there. I think people are being fed. You're expected to go to a gym and find a trainer, and what ends up happening is that people feel that they're going to be taken care of. That's not true. It's just not true. What you're actually seeing out there a lot of times isn't your interest first. It's a system training. I do, and my favorite topic, CrossFit. I do CrossFit. Everybody needs to do CrossFit. I've been successful. That's not what this is about. You have to figure out the sweet spot for you. Everybody's different, and the way you live your life will indicate the way your body is. So the job, and I firmly believe this in personal training, my job is to counteract what you do daily. So I have to figure out all the things about you and then figure out how I am going to be able to have you be mobile going forward. I'm 53 years old. I don't have many aches and pains, but I know a lot of people in my age bracket who are older, they aren't feeling well and they are medicated. And there's absolutely no reason to be medicated when if you actually take care of yourself, you can be your own medicine and actually do the right things for yourself to make yourself have longevity. And that's the key to all of this, having longevity and being able to move into the future.
And in case no one told you, you look not a day older than 52.
So since Corona's bringing up age,
I look great.
Corona brought up age. Bo talked about when he graduated from school. So I'm sure that folks watching this can figure out through deductive reasoning that there is an age difference between you two guys. So, does that play a role or a factor in this partnership and the work that you guys are doing?
Well, yeah, I'll start, but I'll say this: there's certain things that Bo does way better than I do. The social media. I am not a person who's a promoter of myself. I've always been a word of mouth business. So I'm getting into the social media. I don't like it, but I got to get in there, to be current. And if you aren't current, you get left behind. So that's not something I want to do. I really, really want to be able to help more and more people. And I'm learning from both. So I think the difference in age has really helped me grow as a human being and grow as a business person.
What about for your clients, both of you?
Bo, go ahead, man.
What do you mean, age differences for our clients?
Maybe not your clients, but your audience, your viewers, the folks that you're talking to here.
Well, I think it helps us cover a little bit of a wider range of things. But at the same time, I mean, I'll answer the initial part as in reflecting on that concept in general. Like I'm considered an old soul by a lot of my friends, and I tend to, even before I got married, the joke was I always liked older women and things like that. We can go down that path if you want, but
we don't.
No, we don't need to.
We'll save that for another podcast.
There you go. And then, but in general, yeah, I mean, I was reflecting on, I have a lot of friends in that. I mean, I've when I look at my kind of closer friends, people I communicate with on a regular basis, there are a lot of them that are up in those higher decades like Corona. So
wow, higher
decades. I think that was trying to be nice. I was trying to be nice about it. But yeah, I think that again, I've always been able to even reflecting back and when we were at Brooklyn Tech, I was able to communicate pretty well with the teachers and kind of connect on those levels of like, I think I kind of understand things in a way that, without sounding whatever about it, but like I kind of see the wisdom and the experience, and I want to have people who are as old as Corona who can share their life's wisdom with me. So appreciate you, buddy.
I appreciate you too. But in terms of clientele for me, Erin, I'm usually working with people about 35 and up, most people. I've worked with younger, depending on what the need is, but usually about in the 30s is where people usually have breakdowns. It's a lot easier to communicate to somebody, what it's like if you've already been through those years and the things that are coming up. And even with my older folks, I believe I have more compassion and more patience for my clients now than I did, 15, 20 years ago, because it was all about getting that workout and getting that sexy workout in and busting your butt. Now it's about longevity. It's about how am I going to be able to move all the time? How I'm going to be able to be off of medicine, all these different things. So I think the age, I'm better at what I do now, just because of the amount of experience, and I have more fun with it now than I did before. Much more fun.
I want to take it back to the beginning for you guys. And for Bo, one thing that I came across in reading your bio was that, you were a bit inspired to take the journey that you're on because of your father. And you lost him at a really young age. So I want to know how that impacts the work that you do.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking that. It definitely, is something that was a catalyst for this whole journey. I lost him when I was 7 years old, and he kind of drank himself to death. So that not a great thing. And a lot of that, to me, even then, I was like, well, that could have been avoided. And as I got a little older, again playing football at Brooklyn Tech, where you and I went. We'll keep shouting out,
I need to find my Brooklyn Tech mug. I think I left it in the office. Otherwise I would have it right here.
Oh, hold on. I think I can reach this. Hold on. I got the Tech jersey too. I got that ready to go.
Love it. Yeah. I gotta find something now. You got the Tech jersey. Corona has the Syracuse stuff. I just moved. Everything's still packed up.
We'll forgive you this time. But yeah, I mean, that was definitely a catalyst of, again, this concept of like preventative medicine that, if you make these choices throughout life, it became very clear to me very quickly, including playing football. I started getting really interested in how do we prevent these injuries? Because we saw, this really good talent, and then we would be missing guys because there was injuries and we would lose games. And it was frustrating, and saying like, is there something that can be done proactively? So that's something, again, I saw from a very early age. And again, looking at the big picture of, diabetes, cancer, all these different concepts, heart attacks, it was just something that I said, we should be able to avoid a lot of this. And unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen from a global system change. because there's just not a lot of money there. But without going down that rabbit hole, I think we've touched on that in a few of the other episodes already. But in terms of prevention, I realized early on that I think it has to happen in this one-on-one space, and being able to show people this is the journey, this is the way. That's actually why I got my tattoo. It's about the journey, and I'm always confused on how to present it, but it's up here too, if you guys can see that if you're watching. But yeah, it's about the journey, and it's about that concept of taking steps along the way and chasing that kind of these low-hanging fruit of things that we can do. Just like I always make the analogy around the financials of, if you have debt, you have to start paying off your credit cards, and you have to take steps to eventually build wealth. And there's just ways we can do that. The same with health. And again, a lot of systems are not in place in that way. And that's coming back to where Corona and I connected on the fact that, this system that we have is about chasing symptoms and chasing the next thing, the next workout, the burn of a Peloton workout. But if you don't have a long-term vision in place, you're going to that's going to catch up to you, and you're going to end up with chronic low back pain, or you're going to need a surgery and things like that. And I can keep rambling on about this obviously for a long time, but I'm going to stop right there.
Peloton shares are falling today. Did you guys know that?
They're going to continue to fall. So just so we know.
But they're falling for a quite silly reason. Just to throw some, pop culture in there for you today. Peloton was featured in Not a Great Light in the new Sex and the City HBO show. And so now they are suffering.
I would think a lot of people are gifting them for Christmas, though. I would think. I don't know.
I digress. But going to Corona, back to the beginning for you, you are so passionate about Syracuse. You bleed orange. And it's not because, like you said, you went to the school, but it's because Syracuse took you and your family in as immigrants. And I think it's worth noting that there is a certain way in which we approach health when we are talking about culture. And so how much does the story of immigrants, culture, the food that we eat, the type of work that we do, how much does that play into everything that you do?
Well, we went from the top of the mountain to the bottom of the mountain. My dad got here, was a janitor, and my father believed in education quite a bit. But we grew up, listen, man, if we ate the way I ate when I was growing up with my mother cooking every single meal, we'd probably be healthier. I think that my ethnicity makes me more well-rounded human being. I feel I'm very, very comfortable in my space. I went to a school that was primarily white. That's the way it was. And I think me spreading my culture out and teaching people what I'm about, which is passion, man. It's all about being passionate. And, if it wasn't for the passion of within my family to succeed and to get after things, God only knows where I would be. But I'm extremely, and everybody knows I'm extremely proud to be Cuban. I'm extremely proud to be the son of my parents. And I'm extremely proud to be, multiracial. I think it's I think it's unreal, and I love it. And I just feel very, very blessed. But it wasn't so easy growing up in Syracuse, looking like me, where I grew up in the beginning. So, but you get used to it, and it's been a pretty fun ride. And I think I got to teach people about my culture, and I learned a lot about others' cultures, and I had to become more interested in other people's stuff over myself, because there was nobody else in my town that was speaking Spanish, which is my first language.
So now that folks know a little bit about you guys, how you started, why don't you tell the folks why you started the podcast and what you want them to get from the podcast?
Well, it started with the phone. Listen, understand this, people. We are fed up. The reason that we started this podcast is because I look into the streets, into gyms, and watch people working out, spending their hard-earned money. And you have clowns, not everybody, because the intention for most people is to make people's lives better. But you have to go beyond what this is. This isn't about system. We are fed up with everybody. You go in to see some trainers do the same thing every hour, and they do it 8 times a day. That's not serving your client. and we're not getting the service that we should demand. This is healthcare. This is healthcare. If you don't want to be on pills, you need to find a way to get your body into a place where you are healthy. And the same thing's happening in the physical therapy world. Go ahead, Bo. You knock it out of the park.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to even pick on physical therapy specifically, but when you look at the global concept, and here's a statistic that really drives me as well is, for those not familiar, I think we mentioned in our previous podcast, but this is the first generation of children that will not outlive their parents, their previous generation in the history of the freaking world.
That's something we should be mad about. That's something we should be really angry about and want to change.
Yes.
Yeah. And, you know, on top of all the other political and whatever, climate change, all these other things, when you look at the health of it all, again, we're coming from a place where, again, I see well-intentioned people, and I'm really curious to dive into your journey, Erin, on hopefully another episode soon. But we see people who are putting in the effort, and they want to get healthy, and they're not the experts, and that's where we have this over 50 plus years of experience where we're saying, hey, like, these were some things you should look out for. There is no consumer's report. People might tell you like, oh, my trainer's great, or my physical therapist is great. But again, like, if you've only been to one, you don't really understand the dynamics of that. And again, maybe you had a good experience, but then we're like, they actually did like out of the 10 things they did for you, maybe 3 of them got you feeling better. And maybe they had a great personality. And again, they're good salespeople. And they made you walk away feeling good, which again, there's value to that. But then when we look at, again, the business model, and we see a lot of snakes and charlatans and snake oil stuff there. And that's kind of what we're trying to call out. I was a little bit inspired actually when we started thinking through this concept and formulating this project of if you guys have seen the Showtime show Penn and Teller's Bullshit, where again they literally will call out whatever the thing is, aliens at Roswell, and they'll say why that's kind of, they'll do a little bit of a dive on that. They're funny guys. They're doing it in a comical way, but at the same time they're looking at like, here's the claims, and like, it's a little crazy. So they're looking at it that way, and that kind of inspired me. Like, I wanted to do that for personal trainers, for physical therapists, and all these different concepts where, again, we're saying like, I was hanging out with an older chiropractor the other day here in Boulder, Colorado, and he's trying to convince me that ultrasound, if anyone's ever experienced ultrasound, where Corona's already rolling his eyes there too. I appreciate that. But yeah, for back when I was in physical therapy school, 2005 to 2008, we were taught this thing is not supported. Like, you should not be doing this. It's a waste of everyone's time. But then Medicare, Medicaid still pay for it, so people still do it in that industry. And again, without going down that rabbit hole, but here we are in 2021. I'm many years from graduating, and back when we knew and we're getting taught by our professors that this thing is wrong, and this guy is still selling it, and he's trying to justify it by saying people walk away feeling better. And
so what does a person who just honestly wants to be healthy do when there's so much information out there and you don't know what's right and what's wrong?
They listen to our podcast.
They listen. First of all, they listen to the podcast. That's number one. Number two, the other thing is that we have to really.
Before you go on, listen to your podcast. That's the number one. So how can folks find the podcast?
Bo.
It's available on all podcast platforms. We should have links everywhere. It's here on the YouTube channel. We have our Demand Better podcast YouTube page. It's on Apple. Instagram. It's on Spotify. It's on Instagram. It's anywhere you want to find it. And as we put more episodes out there, it's going to start hopefully pushing to the tops of the ranks and all that good stuff.
Okay, now go, Corona.
Well, no, I think people have gotten lazy. We're getting a lot of information. There's an information overload about stuff. Yeah. And I always say this, and I've said this in numerous podcasts. If J-Lo's taking something, because she's taking something, doesn't mean you're going to be J-Lo. Because the only way you can be J-Lo if you have her parents and her genetic pool, there's no way in God's green earth that you are going to be her. It's not possible. The reality is, this is about individualization. People have to look at you as a whole person, look at your lifestyle, look at what you're doing, and that way you can come up with an answer. Your body is a roadmap to anybody looking at you. They have to do an assessment to start with anything. And what's happening is that, oh, Susie looks good, so I'm going to go to her trainer. Well, where did Susie start? Was Susie a size 0 when she started and she just maintained the size 0? What are you doing? What are you looking for? I think we're lazy. We're so lazy to the point that We will take more time in researching a car, a house, a refrigerator over the trainer that you're picking. And that person that is training you is affecting your health on a day-to-day basis. That sounds absurd to me.
I want to jump in and add to that and try to answer Erin's question a little more directly, because I think you kind of went around the question. So to answer it as directly as I can, again, that's an inspiration for why we're doing what we're doing. Is it's confusing. And
Yes.
again, the main thing we want to keep coming back to is we're hoping every single episode is a consumer's guide to these issues. And again, there is way too much information out there. One of the next episodes we're doing is about demanding better from research, meaning, we see, oh, there's a headline of, oh, eggs are good for you. And then the next day, eggs are bad for you, and or whatever, or just eat egg whites, or and how it affects cholesterol. And bottom line is, everything we're talking about here, these are very nuanced, complicated concepts that, again, we have, we'll keep going back to our over 50 something years of experience. I know I've spent more than $500,000 in education on all this stuff. I can't count, I can go on my podcast app, and the majority of what I listen to, it tells me how many hours I've listened to, and things like that. I don't even want to start thinking about it, but of consuming all this information. And again, to Corona's point a little bit is there isn't, when we talk about spending, all this time, energy, and research on your car, for your vet, Erin showed us her dog before, maybe she'll show us again. We can and we found out that Corona, I don't actually think I've known this in all these years, that Corona is scared of dogs.
Afraid of dogs.
Been bitten too many times.
I don't know, folks listening and watching this, what do you think? If the dog bites Corona, if many dogs bite Corona, it's not the dog, right? It's Corona.
You guys are off my Christmas list.
Coming back to it though, again, I think that's the point is there isn't a consumer's guide. There are consumer's guides for your vet. You can go on, your local, if people, we're recording this in 2021, Nextdoor is a big thing. If in your community, you can say, who's a good vet in the area? Sometimes I will see stuff about personal trainers, but I still think that it becomes very biased. And again, it's hard to understand the science, the long-term view, and people who can really elevate that concept of personal trainers or physical therapists, where again, these are they're much more nuanced than just who's a good mechanic or who's a good vet in our experience. So not to take anything away from mechanics or vets.
It sounds like you guys are trying to empower folks. You're not just coming on here and saying, okay, your personal trainer sucks or your physical therapist sucks.
Well, we are saying that. We are saying, but that's not all we're doing.
But you don't want to just leave them with nothing.
Correct.
Listen to one Demand Better podcast, and you say, "Oh my gosh, like the physical therapist that I'm going to, the personal trainer that I'm going to, is really not servicing me in the way that I need." And then, okay, so you cancel, your sessions with your personal trainer. You stop going to that physical therapist, and then what? You guys are empowering folks so that they can now find a physical therapist, a personal trainer, and any other person who's working with them health-wise that can really get them to the place that they need to be.
I would add on to that. What I really want, there's one word that really covers what it is other than empowerment. We care. I logistically care about the success of each individual person I work with. I care. I want to know what's going on. I want to know why. Let's figure this out. You can do this. Why can't you run? Whatever it might be. I want to know why. And then Bo and I just don't stop there. If we have to talk to your physician, we have to build a team around that. We will build a team around the client to do what's best for the client. In Bo's case, he'd be calling himself. But with all that, because he's a trainer, physical therapist, does them both. So we literally care. And I'm tired of people being on pills when exercising and getting an education. My father always said one thing to us when we were, everything's easier when you know what the hell you're doing. Everything is easier when you're educated. And the problem is that the education that's going out there and the resources that people are reading usually aren't the right resources to get your information from, even though those magazines or those books sell. It's just, how are you going to decipher through the maze and the confusion, as Bo said earlier?
And I'll add to that our last episode about nutrition. Where do people get their nutrition advice from?
Oh.
We bonded over the fact that, whatever, when I was coming out of high school, going into college, trying to find my own health journey, and Corona had a similar concept of like men's health was like the Bible, along with like Arnold Schwarzenegger's book and things like that. So, but I literally would cut parts of Men's Health out. I would have a binder. I would highlight things. Like that was how I got my information. This was before, the internet was like right in front of our face like it is now. But still, it was like I wanted to learn, and I followed that Men's Health diet for a long time. And I'm like, I'm not, they talk about whole wheat pasta and low fat yogurt, and I was like, I'm doing it. But I'm not getting the results I want, and I don't understand. So that, and again, it's our failures that we've seen, like, again, over all these years. And we talked about the age difference and things like that. And it is going through a lot of those experiences with people are now like, hey, what do you think about, blood flow restriction training? Or what do you think about needles, or again, ultrasound or whatever? So we're able to provide a little bit of that. And coming back to your question, because I think we both kind of deviated a bit from that, is as we tangentialize.
But I mean, it's a conversation. And I think everything that we're saying here is valuable to those who are listening to it. So
hopefully. And again, my company is called Fit Care, because if you care about your fitness, you can avoid the health care system. And that comes back to that word care that Corona was trying to highlight. And yes, we want every episode to have, and we're trying to continue to make sure you walk away with, here are the top 5 things I need to know, not just I'm going to fire my trainer, like you said, and then what? It's we want you to walk away with that empowerment, with something that's a guide, again, of like, what should I look for? Especially if you're starting out, it's probably easier. If you're currently working with a trainer, even if you like them, that becomes a harder conversation, because maybe there's a personality thing, or you feel bad, and you're in a good routine, but at the same time, they might be not serving you the best way that you need to be served. And again, when we're talking about avoiding cancer, avoiding these long-term health conditions that we just see continually springing up. And again, we're looking at it like, hey, if you just change a little bit of this, and maybe, just change something. And because again, some people switch to veganism because they think that's going to solve all their issues. And everyone wants to find a simple solution. And again, we're here to say, like, it's a little more complicated than that.
Simple solution.
There's no simple solution. If there was a simple solution, we would have found it by now, I think. And everyone would be doing it. But that's the point, is it's nuanced, it's complicated. And I did want to talk maybe real quick about the fact that, again, these long form conversations should allow us, hopefully, to explore these concepts. Again, you look at Joe Rogan as probably the most famous podcaster right now, and he's got 4-hour episodes, and he's up, I think he's approaching 2,000 episodes now. I'm not even going to do the math on that craziness, but in terms of how many hours that is. But at the end of the day, again, like, we're trying to make sure it's digestible, and our goal is to have it down to 43 minutes and things like that, because that's what the industry standard is of like people's commute time and things like that. But at the end of the day, we're trying to cram in as much of that as possible and engage in these conversations. Like you're saying, this is a conversation. We want our episode not just to be, hey, we're telling you that you should get assessed by a personal trainer, that physical therapist, if they're just giving you 8 minutes on the bike and then 8 minutes of hands-on stuff, like they probably don't have your best interest, and it's a system. It's a broken system, and that's what we're trying to bring light to.
So let's let folks know what they're going to get out of this podcast, and perhaps what they're not going to get out of this podcast. You guys want to give me, let's say, the top 5. Someone who's listening to Demand Better, what are you going to get out of this podcast?
You're going to give, number one, that we're going to be a destination for you to find information. So we're going to give you information that we've researched. This is evidence-based information we're giving you. We're not just giving you stuff out of Men's Health. That would be number 1. Number 2, we care. We actually care about you. We want you to be healthy. We want you to do better. Those are 2. Bo, go.
Oh, yeah. Just put me on the spot. Yeah. Again, consumer's guide is really the thing that comes up to me of, again, we want you to expect value. So you're going to have, again, steps that you can take when you listen to the episode of, oh, this is how I need to think about my personal trainer, or my physical therapist, or whatever the episode is, the nutritionist. So you're going to have takeaway steps. So the evidence-based part, I'll re-emphasize, right? And that's coming from a lot of different angles. The fact that we care is definitely vital, but I think that the biggest thing people can expect is they're going to have steps to take away, and again, very solid, hopefully, concepts of, if this isn't there, that's a red light, and I need to move in a different direction. So we want it to be very clear, concise, and valuable.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Anything else? I think you covered it. I
Okay.
think no, listen, I think you covered. I think you covered it very well. But I think you need to know our backgrounds too, in terms of where we're standing in things. This isn't just me. Just I'm spitballing. This isn't what it's. That's not what it's about. We've been in the industry a long time. I have made a tremendous amount of mistakes when I was younger, all the way to where I am now. And from those mistakes, I've learned. And as I've gotten older, I've had to make adjustments into what is best. If I did a lot of the stuff that I know now when I was 20, I'd probably be in a better place physically. And it's just experience. And when you walk into certain places and I think what ends up happening is that we've gotten lazy. And then I'm going to the gym. I'm going to go to a physical therapist. I'm going to go to a gym, and they're going to provide me the best person. It's not true.
Mhm.
It's not true. You have to do your research. And I don't think people do the research. They do research on objects that don't matter, but they don't do research on the things that are about them and about their physical health and mental health. They just don't. And I don't understand why, which is why we're asking everybody to demand better, because this is about you. This isn't about us. This is about you and how you can get better and how you will be able to have longevity. Period.
And the fourth thing,
Okay.
so we have our list of 3 things so far. Number 4 is again, we mentioned it earlier that they should expect a conversation, not just between Corona and myself or guests like Erin, but that it's a conversation with the listener, and we're inviting the listener to say, hey, like my personal trainer does XYZ. Is that all right? Like we want that to be open in the comments, in reaching out to either one of us directly. Like again, because this is our mission. We want the whole point of this, why we're putting our time into this is because we want people to walk away with like, oh, now I feel more empowered. I feel more open and like understanding of the fact of what this thing should be doing. Again, physical therapy, if I'm in the insurance model, is there to get my range of motion for my shoulder. Right now it's at 77 degrees, and now I need to get it to 140 degrees so I can wipe my own butt, which is a big thing. And things like that. It is what it is. So moving right along. But that's something I think. So we have, again, I'm gonna bring it back to evidence-based practice. That we're trying to provide a very scientific-minded approach, rational concepts, things that are missing from the world today. Don't get me started on that. Number 2 is that we care. That should come across. If it's not, that passion. Number 3 is the value. Again, they're walking away with something valuable, something concrete as well. A very hopefully straightforward guide. And then number 4 is it's an open conversation.
Yeah, we want them in. Yeah, we want the listener to be as involved as possible. We want to be a guide for them. This is like I said, this is a destination. You come here, we're going to give you information. Go ahead.
And I want to add to that. Like we invite each of these professions, the physical therapy profession, the anyone we pick on, nutritionists. With Corona did a 43-minute interview with a local nutritionist. Yeah, we want, like, not that we want to fight. And that's another thing when we talk about, again, our age gap or things like that is I think we saw the opportunity to explore some of these and debate on some of these concepts. Again, we're going to do an episode on CrossFit coming up, and Corona, if you haven't been able to, yep, there it is. The rolling of the eyes. And I don't know if you guys can hear it on audio, but he's not happy. But in terms of going through the concept, being able to break it down, and again, have these nuanced looks at these very complex topics. And again, what should people walk away with if you're doing CrossFit? Corona believes there's a lot missing there. I have my, thoughts about where that fits in. And again, we're going to save that for next time. But yeah, so I wanted to make sure folks understand that.
Just as important as what folks are going to get, what aren't they getting from Demand Better? They're not coming here to see you guys working out. This is not a workout class or something like that.
No.
So what aren't you going to get from this?
You're not going to get us flexing our muscles. You're not going to get us talking about. Put it down. Put it down.
I don't know.
We're not going to be sitting here. We're not going to be sitting here hawking something that's not evidence based, that we don't, that's not there. That's what we're here to do, is give information and to empower. Simple. Anything else that you think we're going to give you, you might get some laughs out of it and all that, but we're not here to BS you. It's just not going to happen. This is we really, like, I go back to the word care. we really care about our listeners. We really care about the people we work with, and we want them to be as empowered and as educated as possible so that they can go on and be able to master some of these concepts that are going to make that, go back to my other word, give them longevity and live a nice, happy life.
And I'll add to that something else they're not getting, which again, in this modern day of fake news, and again, Erin, I'm sure as a reporter, primarily you have some interesting things to say about all that. But in this day of like not trusting journalists,
Yeah.
and you know, we won't go down the rabbit hole again of why that is in the last couple of years and things like that. But what we won't be doing here is providing just our opinions. It's again, as much as possible as evidence based as possible. We're not coming in with assumptions. We're not coming in with you know, it being about us. We're coming in with, this is what we see. This is what we think should be happening. This is our research. This is the science that backs it up. Here's some experts that we brought in. So we're trying to make sure that it's not just clickbait. It's not just, here's the top 3 things you need to do to lose 70 pounds in the next 3 days. You know, like it's and I, by the way, when I get that question, I don't know if you've ever done this, Corona, but somebody's like, what's the fastest way to lose 10 pounds? I say,
there isn't.
I say cut off from like right about here on your arm. Cut that off. You'll lose 10 pounds. That's the fastest way to lose 10 pounds that I know of. So, but all jokes aside, I think that again, it's important to understand that again, we're not coming at it and we're coming at it with our own humility. Like you can't say you're humble, but like we're trying to come at it with, here's our experience. We're open to conversation. We want personal trainers, physical therapists, chiropractors to come on and show us, you know, like it's what's that meme thing where the guy's like, you know, yeah, prove to me that, like, you know, whatever, you know, if you guys know that sign where he's in the park and he's like, convince me of this. Like we're not coming at it with that. We're coming at it with like, here's, yeah, like we really want to approach this thing from as much of a rational, again, scientific thing, which I think even with if you look at the way vaccines are being handled right now and the public discourse, if we can even call it that, about it, there's a lot lacking there and there's very few voices. It's either, you know, yelling from one end or yelling from the other end, and we're saying, hey, like maybe there's something in between here where we can have this conversation, and hopefully we bring some, again, truth to it, or you know, however you want to think of it, but that's what we're trying to, I think, bridge those gaps of extreme information or misinformation.
Yeah, the extreme information is a problem because you're selling something when you're doing that. You're trying to convince, but we are here to give you information. Listen, when we give you the stuff for the 5 things to do for a trainer, they're very logical. They're very, very simple to do, but some people are still not going to do them. You fall in love with a person and a trainer, and it's like, oh, he's the best, but he or she may not be the best. You may just get along with them, and so it all depends on where your people's information they're getting it from, because they're not getting the appropriate information in a lot of situations. And like I said, Men's Health, I used to read it all the time. It's not a good place to get information.
So what's your final words of advice to folks that are listening? Because you guys blew through the 2-minute warning. So we're about to wrap this on up. So what are your final words of advice?
Go ahead, Bo.
I was going to say, you know, chime in, get involved in these conversations, challenge us. One of our episodes, and I was debating on titling this, is Demand Better from Us. You know, we're ready for that challenge. You know, that's it, is demand, like the whole concept of demand better is, you get one life. If you're going to spend 43 minutes listening to us, you know, we're honored. We're grateful. Also, you can listen at 2x and spend only 22 minutes. That's another story. That's what I do. But anyway, but yeah, I would just come back to the fact of you know, demand better is our theme. It's our, you know, it's our mission. It's what when we talk to folks, we're like, hey, I see you doing whatever in the gym. Like, I appreciate that you're trying. You know, again, January's coming up. We're filming this December 10th. You're going to have New Year's resolutions. Not just demand better, but it's just like, there's better things we can do. New Year's resolutions are just don't work. You need New Year's habits. You need you know, again, I'm not going to go down that path. So we blew through our 2-minute warning. So that's my thing. Demand better from us. Engage with us. We're here for you guys. We enjoy this. We love it, if you can't tell. And again, we just really are excited to grow and evolve with you as a listenership. And hopefully, again, we're getting, you know, we're going to get demandees. Maybe that's what they're called. Our fans become demandees. Is that
I
what do you,
like that.
no?
Final words, Corona?
Hey, listen, I just want to be able to empower and help people going, giving them longevity and know that we really, truly care about you. I want the conversation. I want you to come in and try to bring the conversation to us so that we can have this conversation and expose certain things here and there that are out there that are misleading to the public. The reason we started, to get back to the first question we had, the reason we really started is because we were fed up. We were fed up that people weren't getting value. We were fed up that people weren't getting what they wanted. Your trainer says to you, you got to work harder. Well, maybe the trainer's not doing their job. Maybe the therapist isn't doing their job. But how do you know that if you're not educated enough to understand what's missing in that paradigm? And because somebody has a bunch of people doesn't mean that they're great at what they do. They just have a following. And when it's all said and done, come to Demand Better. Come join us. We want you here. We want you to learn. We want you to give us, you got a topic, we'll tackle it. Just bring it. We will get the information that's necessary for it. But this is all about you. It's about your empowerment. And it's about you being able to maneuver this crazy ass world that we're living in. Because the information is coming at you furious and fast. And if you're getting your information 9 times out of 10 from Facebook or Instagram, it's not really going to be accurate, people. You really have to go to qualified sources to get stuff. And we hope that we can give you those qualified sources and we can give you something to think about every single time that will make you better. But demand better.
On that note,
I did as he was talking. I got one more. I'm sorry. I can't believe somehow.
Are you kidding? We blew through the 2 minutes.
I don't know how this slipped through the cracks, but I do. Again, like, this is another thing that, like, is, again, when I think about me, who I am, why I'm here, again, like, this is actually probably number one on my list. I don't know how I missed this, but one thing is, again, wasted opportunity and people, like, being able to do really simple things to avoid stuff like surgery and things like that.
Yes.
When I see a lot of folks, again, this is something that, again, I just needed to throw in there. I'm sorry. I apologize. I know
why are you apologizing? I think
we're on the clock. We're on the clock. No, but again, a lot of times, and I've tried to rebrand myself and change. I don't want to call myself a physical therapist, things like that. My journey, when I work with a business coach, they ask me, who do I get as clients? Who finally finds me? It's people who have gone to 10 other providers. Yeah. And those 10 providers have let them down. And I, again, hear what it is. And I'm going to say this statement, and all legal stuff aside, I think what I hear from these folks should be considered malpractice of medicine, of fitness, of whatever you want to call it. And again, I want to finish on this very strong statement that, again, this is my biggest passion is I don't want people to go through 10 other providers before they come to me. And I provide them with a good solution that maybe now they can avoid surgery. I'll give a really quick example. We have a dog sitter that we found here in Colorado. We moved here a few months ago. She was scheduled for a neck surgery, and she had 3 different surgeons debating on what to do about her neck. And she was going to get like multi-level fusion. And I started having a conversation with her. I was like, oh, just come in. Maybe we can test your muscles so that after you have the surgery, I wasn't even trying to convince her to not have the surgery. But then when I started talking to her, she said she tried physical therapy. Again, that's a term I can go on about for hours. But bottom line is, nobody's tried to help her strengthen her neck muscles. She didn't even understand that you have muscles there that can be strengthened. This is the epitome of why we're here, is if people don't understand these things, these very basic low-hanging fruit. And unfortunately, the system is not designed for that, because the Reiki person's trying to give her Reiki and heal her that way. The surgeon is trying to cut her open. And he said, okay, check the box. You tried physical therapy. Oh, nobody actually taught you how to breathe. Nobody taught you mechanics. Nobody taught you posture. All these things that Corona and I are just super passionate about. So anyway, my point, I wanted to make sure got into this episode because it's a primary freaking component to who I am, what I do, and why I do it, is because we see so much wasted opportunity, time, and good intentions, we could say from all parties, but it's just, we see it as an injustice. We see it as malpractice, and there's bigger things to worry about. Maybe, we could talk about racial issues. We could talk about politics and all this other stuff. But we also see this billion, trillion-dollar industry. And at the end of the day, too, we see our relatives, our loved ones, and they're putting trust in folks that are just, whether they're actually malintentioned or whether they're just not.
They're not good, and they're chasing sexy. You got to do the hard work. Bo's dead on. And, you know, when it's all really, really said, done, we've gotten people out of surgery, both of us. We've prevented those things. Listen, take your time, find the right person. You know, we're here to give you tips. We're here to provide you that route so you can get that consumer digest or consumer reports style information so you can carry it with you forward.
Finish.
I'm done.
You might have had one more thing to say, just giving you that space. But really, thank you guys so much for joining us for the Demand Better podcast, a special Demand Better podcast with me, Erin Clarke, interviewing good friends, Dr. Bo and Corona. And I hope you guys come back for more.
Before we sign off, Erin, I want make sure you plug whatever you need to plug and where people can find you. And I know you wanted to shout out Run Hustle Run.
Yeah, so I am a runner, and Bo knows since high school I ran the Brooklyn Tech track team, track and field and cross country. And as an adult, I got into road races, running half marathons predominantly. I
You just did the New York City Marathon.
She just did the New York City Marathon.
I saw
you for years saying that I would never run a marathon.
I saw you had a knee brace on for that.
I did have a knee brace.
And we can have a conversation about that another time.
We're gonna have to talk about that.
Bo, I've already broached that subject with her.
Okay. I am more than willing to share everything with you guys and figure out what's going on with me so that I can be a better me. But yeah, if you guys are interested in, following me or finding me, I'm on Instagram at running_reporter, or I have another Instagram. It's just my name, Erin Grace Clarke. And check out that run crew that I run with. They're called Run Hustle Run on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Thanks, guys, for having me along.
Before we leave, we want to thank you, Erin, for putting your time in with us. We truly, truly appreciate it, and we love you to death.
Thank you for having me. This has been a fun joy. This has been a fun journey, I should say.
Fun joy. Fun joy. All right, we're going to sign off, guys. Thank you all for joining, and we
Demand better!
Got at least 1% better from this. And thank